our music is shaped by the three of us, and that's it. And there's nothing besides that. So, it's never like, oh, this is popular, this is our image. It's like the cool thing about us is that our next album is mostly acoustic, and that's not going to surprise anyone because we've done that. We could put out an album that was all of a sudden really influenced by African music or something, and that wouldn't surprise people. We could put out a death metal album maybe, and that wouldn't surprise people. We have a wide enough thing that whatever muse we have, we can kind of follow it, and it's still going to sound like the three of us, which is I'm aware of how lucky this situation is. I like music with dynamics. It's very important that it goes on a journey from point A to the end of the tune. I have a very hard time with music that starts and ends and it just kind of is whatever it is. Like I want like valleys, and I want explosions, and I want unpredictable. I want something to surprise me and be unpredictable. I like very intense music. I don't like background sort of music. I like music that you have to kind of like pay attention to, or it just doesn't make sense. I love stupid caveman riffs sometimes that are just like, you just nod your head and then I like very intellectual music sometimes that doesn't satisfy that, but that satisfies like the mind more. But I want to make music that does both.
Here we are. This is the Weird Music Podcast, Consider the Source edition. We've got Gabe. What is up, boss? How you been, man?
Good. Excited. The last show we did was in Ohio. And now that we're back, some of the first shows that we did was in Ohio. So it's kind of like a full circle. Woodlands, actually. That was the last show we did. And everything got canceled right then. So
it's full circle.
Yeah.
Full octagon.
Full squiggly, whatever side this year has been.
I know you're a very tapped in guy. I'm curious, like, with the relationship you have with music, with the relationship you have with being a musician, as far as this lockdown is concerned, how did you kind of cope with, being on lockdown, the ebbs and flows of, really how grim of a situation it's been for the last year? Like, did you experience necessarily like writer's block, or did you find solace in practicing your instrument? Like, I'd love to hear what it's been like for you.
Well, yes to all of those. It's been, so when it first happened, I was really very stupidly optimistic. I was like, it's going to last like a month or two, right? So I was really inspired because I was like, oh, it's like a 2-month thing. And so I wrote and recorded like 2 albums from scratch at the very beginning of this, and I was really feeling inspired and stuff. And then around the time of like, summertime, all the political unrest started to happen, and it became clear that this was going to go on longer. Then I had a real period of intense, I just had no motivation to write anymore, and it was a bit dark. And then CTS got an opportunity to write and record an album from scratch with David Prater, who produced one of our favorite Dream Theater albums growing up. So we all of a sudden, so that kind of was a kickstart. We wrote the album on Zoom together and got together and recorded it. And then since then, the ball has been back to rolling. So there was, months there, but where it dipped. I'm finishing a lot of stuff. We're all finishing a lot of stuff. It seems right now like there's like a rebirth of things, but at the same time, there's so many things recorded already that I don't want to keep on recording shit until we get stuff done, And then this whole time, practicing it's been okay. I've been studying the music from the Azerbaijan for a while now, and so during this quarantine, I was actually able to take like 3 to 4 Skype lessons a week with a guy that I study from. So that was the one thing that I was able to really focus on improving my skills upon. And my acoustic instruments, normally I play my acoustic shit, and then we go on tour for 6 weeks, and I don't get to play it, and then I come back. But this was the first time I really had like a chunk of time where every day for a little bit I could play some of the acoustic stuff. So I've definitely been able to improve on those, I hope.
Yeah, I can see the life in your eyes. Like you said, rebirth. Like now is
last weekend, man. So that that was like, we played the first 2 in-person shows really this last year, and and it felt really great just to play together and to see fans. And we played like 6 hours of music over like the course of 2 days. And the sets were done. I was both nights. I was like, I got more. But so it feels nice to be slowly inching our way back to some sort of like. I like playing music with people. I'm not a solo guy. I'm not a solo artist. I enjoy writing music and practicing by myself, but I'm 100% a person that my whole thing about playing music is really in playing with people. And I love, in my band, I super love the two guys I get to play with, and I'm really happy to play with both of them. And so, like, it's really great to get to play together. That's really, like, that's my thing more.
We got the big three in New York.
I'm the only one that lives in New York, man, now.
What?
Everyone is I'm still kicking it in Queens, New York right now. I'm still New York City representing, but I'm the only one now at this point. But I mean, we are very much, we're a New York City thing. We started here, like we sound, we're you hear us talk for a minute. We're of the city, I guess,
Go Yanks.
I'm neutral on the New York sports teams. I want the Mets to win because they're just always going to drop the ball in the best way. They're just going to get your hopes up, and then they're going to drop it. And so at least that's something fun about that.
Just like a mediocre jam band.
Oh man, I'm gonna enrage some Met fan by calling them a mediocre jam band at some point.
So I know you're tuned into music from all kinds of cultures, and you mentioned Azerbaijan. I think that is so cool. Like, you can almost get not a taste, but the taste equivalent to hearing. You can get like a taste of a culture through the kinds of music they make, through the way they dance. Like, I'm so into that. And I want to hear, kind of zooming out a little bit further, when you're listening to music, what are some qualities, some themes of music that clicks with you that you think, wow, like this is great? I mean, there's so much music out there, and I'm curious to hear from you. What about the music you love stands out to you?
That's a really good question, because there's like, if it's, there's like an a sonic link even in like very different musics. If it's like some Persian classical music that I've been studying forever and love, an Alice in Chains song that I grew up playing, and like there's like a sonic similarity. And so as a music nerd, I can say that I'm drawn to modal music more than music that is based upon chord changes. I find music that is modal music a more emotionally satisfying thing to me. And basically what that means is like, it's hard to put this into a non-music nerd thing, but for me, I like music with dynamics. Is very important that it goes on a journey from point A to the end of the tune. I have a very hard time with music that starts and ends and it just kind of is whatever it is. Like I want valleys, and I want explosions, and I want unpredictable. I want something to surprise me and be unpredictable. And generally, I like very intense music. I don't like background sort of music. I like music that you have to kind of like pay attention to, or it just doesn't make sense. Like and I feel that's kind of just like it's at odds with a lot of music that gets made now, but that's cool. I mean, that's like, that's fine. It takes all types to make the world turn. And I like the music that's like, okay, this is what's happening now. This is not like a good background to you talking, or a good background to something. Like, this is a thing that's requires your brain and your heart and like your spirit to understand it. There's certain music that I like that just kind of, I love stupid caveman riffs sometimes that are just like, you just nod your head, and then I like very intellectual music sometimes that doesn't satisfy that, but that satisfies like the mind more. But I want to make music that does both.
I love that. I love the way you mentioned like I think of a story arc of a song. Like, there's a character. Exactly. Almost there's tension and release. So you said you like being surprised. I mean, I'm not alone. I love being surprised too. Music that I can expect what's coming. Like, what am I even doing there? I want to ask you now then, from a songwriting standpoint, like, Do you surprise yourself? Like how diving into the mind of Gabe, like what is that songwriting process like?
Well, so that's a very interesting thing because I like very weird music, but I like very pretty songs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like when we write, because if I write something, I know that when I bring it into the band, it's going to have everyone's influence on it. And if I know that someone writes a song and brings it into the band, I'm going to be able to put my influence on it. And that's one of the great things about being in this group is that we get to really it's all equal contributions. So when I'm writing something, I'm just trying to follow what the emotion that I'm feeling is at that point, and that's it. And that's it. And if I write one part of a song, or if I write a whole little skeleton of it, that's it. And then I can bring that in and we'll explore that. But it's just about the emotion of what I'm feeling. If I play two notes together and I'm like, oh, that feels like this, I just go with it, and that's it. That there's nothing conscious about the song writing and shit. And so that's why often we'll have like a very pretty song and then we have a jam in the song, and that's where it can get really unpredictable and weird, and then it'll go back to being like a pretty sort of tune. That's something that I really like is like I really love when jazz guys sometimes cover like a Radiohead song, because to me it kind of, sometimes the jazz dude's songs themselves may not be great, but their improvisations are great. And I love Radiohead, but sometimes I wish that there was improvisation and soloing and like a little bit more exploratoriness in their songs. And so sometimes I feel like a jazz cover of a Radiohead song kind of, when it's really done, elevates both things. And so we kind of want to write songs that if you sang our songs, it would be singable. And then we'll do some crazy fucking batshit jam that's not singable. And then we'll go back to, song territory.
So when you're in batshit jam mode, like, and you don't need to spoil this for all the fans. Is there a plan? Like, are you guys completely free form?
Well,
what is that plan, like that architecture of that?
So there'll be like a key center, like it's in G, but it could, I have freedom to most time, whatever mode, whatever combination of notes I want to choose from, as long as it's centered around G. And it's, let's say it starts in 7. So it's like, okay, here's the rhythm, it's in 7, it's in G. And at the very end of it, I'm going to play this, and that's going to get us back into the song. And then we'll just go, and sometimes like I'll have no ideas and John will play a fill and I'll jump from that, and then it just goes together, and we kind of like, I purposely try to like really, before a jam starts, like clear my mind of anything. I don't want it to be like, I practiced this, so I'm going to play this. I've been working on this, so I'm going to use this. I try not to do that. I kind of try it to be like, this is this very second right now, what does that present itself? And sometimes, the solo may be better if I came into it with a game plan, but that's not what it's about. It's about sometimes it's not that great if you explore, and sometimes it's amazing, and then you get the one you get like, oh, that was a very special thing. And sometimes you're like, yeah, I've definitely played better versions of this, but that's how it is.
So, like a couple minutes ago, you mentioned something I put a bookmark in my mind. You said sometime you like music that appeals to the intellect. Yeah. Other times, you like pretty music. Other times you like music that appeals to the spirit. Asking this, like just answering from your own perspective. Is music something that you feel is inherently spiritual? Like, what is that relationship like between music and spirituality?
So it's inherently no, but it can be. So this is the thing, is the cool thing about music is that I always feel that music is one of the few arts that can really go from full on like the most base elements of humanity to the most amazing angelic elements of humanity. Music can cover all of that, And my thing is that music can, and I believe, has the potential to improve one's spiritual life 100%. And it can be the act of listening, and the act of playing is a means of, there's a famous Indian musician named Ali Akbar Khan. He was a great, his teacher was his father, and that's my Indian teacher's teacher, which is cool. Anyhow, but
the lineage.
And he was like, if you practice for 10 years, you can please I'm paraphrasing this. I remember the end of it. It's like, if you practice for 10 years, you can please the crowd. If you practice for 20 years, you can please yourself. If you practice for 30 years, you can please your teacher. And if you practice for 40 years, you can, please the big guy. Which is, a long haul sort of relationship with music, and that's kind of like what it, personally, I've definitely become a better person as I become a better musician. When I was 21 and thought that I was really good, I didn't want to listen to people, and I wrote the music, and that was it. But pre-CTS, my band, I wrote the music for that band, and that was it. And I was writing really good shit, and I was convinced that was it. And everyone I looked up to in the world, that was kind of it. That was kind of like, they're very like, you can have this perspective. I write the songs for this band, and that was kind of like. But then when CTS formed, and we're playing with these two other musicians who I fucking was like, oh, you guys are great. I really respect you guys. Let's make this an equal thing. I became a better person by accepting other people's stuff and playing other people's songs, not just everything. And then by listening as to other people's input, and then and then putting my input to other people's stuff, you learn how to take things being said to you and how to learn how to say things to people being nice. And at this point in the group, we write everything is super. Everyone has equal say, and when we disagree, it's nice. We talk through it, and it's really nice, and we end up reaching a solution that we've talked through, and it's really nice. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't. Music is the way that I got to being a better person like that. So for me personally, that it is a means of becoming a more. And so I know that for listeners, it's the same thing. If you listen to music, I feel like, you should listen to music that's about the dumbest bullshit that you want and have fun with dumb music. Totally, 100%. There's nothing wrong with that. But also try to listen to shit that's made with a slightly different perspective. That's a slightly different thing. Listen to music that is not just music for fucking and taking drugs to. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can listen to music for whatever, but sometimes listen to some balance. Like the same way I mostly listen to this shit, but sometimes I want to put a Sabbath album on. Sometimes I want to listen to Goatsnake or something like that. And I want to, and it's fine. And I'm going to listen to that. And then I'm going to listen to something that I know is on a higher vibration, if you want to say, but have the balance. Just have the balance to try to, you're not only going to eat pizza. You're not going to be healthy if you do that. You have to have other things. And when you're a kid, you may not like your vegetables. And as you grow up, you're like, yo, vegetables are mad good. Music is like that, but most people never change that. Most people listen to the same music they did when they were 14, but everything else in life has grown. Their diet has grown. Their taste in art has grown. Their abilities, other things are grown, but their music stays fucking in their teenage years. And that's it's a bit of a sad thing.
There's definitely an art to listening. Yeah. And that's something that musicians, especially improvisational musicians, are so centered on, is just the art of truly listening. And I'm not talking about just listening to your bandmates in the middle of an improv. I'm talking about when your eyes are closed, you've got your guitar, you're listening to both what's around you, the fills with the drummer, what the bass player's doing, but you're also listening into your intuition, what you want. And it's almost like when I'm at a festival or a show, and the climax of that event is when I see a musician just so engrossed in that art of listening mind state. And it's like they're just almost being a window between the intuition and what they hear.
Yeah, and that's that's really, and that kind of does, when I would read interviews with my favorite Western improvising musician is John Coltrane, right? Especially the later and towards the end of his career stuff. That's my favorite Western improvisational music. And you read interviews with him, and he is a deep dude saying deep shit and playing music from a deep thing. And that's him yo, that's as you would say nowadays, that's goals, that's a goal. That's my that's the thing is it's not, my goal isn't to have a fucking watch and a pool or some shit. You know what I'm saying? My goal is I want to try to play music that's never been played before, and I can only play it. That's a goal. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my goal. I want to partake in music that only the people that are playing it right now can do, and yet it still reaches people. You know, that's what I want to do with stuff. And so, you know, everyone has different goals.
I love how real you are with your perspective, man.
It's the I play music that's every single person would tell you is the wrongest career choice. When I was, and I make a living doing it, and we have less fans than some bands and a lot more fans than other people that are amazing doing creative shit, and we have a career playing this crazy music. And it's because that we believe in it and it's real. You know, that I think that's why the fans can kind of see that we play this really crazy music that is technical, but it's not about being technical. Because if it was just about showing off, there's a lot of people that show off on the internet and they have a lot of internet fame, but they don't bring people to shows. We're not about showing off. It's just, we play real passionate music, and it just happens. We express ourselves instrumentally and intensely. And as you can see, I fucking have a fair amount of words when I speak. I have a fair amount of notes. I have a lot of thoughts. So when I play, it's like that. I feel everything about person's personality should be reflected in their music. Like, if you don't know what CTS sounds like or something, and you heard this interview and anything I'm saying is appealing to you, and you listen to the music afterwards, hopefully you wouldn't be surprised as to what the music sounded like. You'd be like, that makes sense. Or vice versa, if you were into the music and then you hear me speak now, hopefully you won't be like, yo, that guy's a fucking prick, I like his music. Or, buddy, the guy's a dick. You'll be like, oh, that makes sense, that the perspectives being voiced come from that music that's happening, you know? Hopefully there's congruity there.
There should be, at least.
Hopefully.
With branding, we don't always see that, staying true to one's brand.
You stay away from that shit, it's definitely hurt our career 100%, but we're not capable of playing that game, the very smart game, music business game that most people that have success play. We've never played that. And again, for better or worse, we've never had a music industry person that's come and been like, I'm going to shape you guys. We've been 100% functioning as the three of us shaping our music. We have great management. We love Zach, he's a great manager. We have David, our booking. We've always had great people, but our music is shaped by the three of us, and that's it. And there's nothing besides that. So, it's never like, oh, this is popular, this is our image. It's like, the cool thing about us is that our next album is mostly acoustic, and that's not going to surprise anyone because we've done that. We could put out an album that was all of a sudden really influenced by African music or something, and that wouldn't surprise people. We could put out a death metal album maybe, and that wouldn't surprise people. We have a wide enough thing that whatever muse we have, we can kind of follow it, and it's still going to sound like the three of us, which is I'm aware of how lucky this situation is. So
it's a dream to be able to follow your passion, be a creative, and get to stay true to that while putting food on the table.
Yeah. I live in New York City, and which is a very, very expensive.
Shit's not cheap there.
It is not. It is not. Every time we're on tour, we we go to a friend's house or something, I'm always like, so what do you guys pay for this, 3-floor house on all the acres? And it's like, oh, I pay less than you pay for your 1-bedroom in Bar Queens. I'm like, okay. But that's how it is,
So, Gabe, man, what can us CTS fans expect coming out from the band here next couple months? Albums, shows, what's up, man?
Shows, as the world opens up, we will be as present as we can. We have I can't quite announce it yet, but I think we have a cool winter run opening for a friends bands of ours. That's awesome. But before, we have our hybrid album. That's our half acoustic, half more chill electric. To say chill is a vast overstatement, but for us, more chill. We sit down, so it has to be chill. But so our hybrid album, we recorded that. We were going to release it right before. We were going to release that in 2020. We had all of our 2020 plans were for the hybrid album, but So I think a couple people got sick and kind of changed that the plans of 2020. I've heard rumors or something, but fuck, man. So we're gonna put that out some point this year, and do a hybrid tour, and then we have an EP that we recorded with that's more heavy. It's more heavy psychedelic stuff that we're really excited. Right now that David Prater, the awesome producer, is mixing. It's the first time we've ever really worked with like a producer and stuff like that, and it was a really fun experience. And so that album is going to probably be the next thing that we put out. And and then we may just write, we have a lot of creativity between the three of us, and we have a lot that we can do. So depending on what the opportunities are in terms of, if we're playing a lot, we'll do the shows. There may be November may be a time when so many people are playing shows that we can't play any shows. So then we may write and record some new stuff. Who knows? But the hybrid thing is really going to be the next thing. And check us out. We'll be back, in Ohio as soon as we can. Maybe it'll be a hybrid show. Maybe it'll be an electric show. We're not exactly sure yet. But the hybrid shows are gonna be fun because it'll be sit down. Well, everything is a sit down thing now, which is fucking crazy. But it'll be a specifically sit down venue that's supposed to be sit down, and we'll play some instruments that people haven't seen necessarily played before. We use some weird stuff in our hybrid set that isn't common knowledge.
Well, man, it's a great time to be a Consider the Source fan, dude. Thanks again for fucking staying true to all that you do, and love talking with you, man. Thanks for coming on here. Anything you want to leave anyone who's listened this far in with?
Yeah, man. If you have seen us and you like our music and you support us, thank you so much. We're so deeply appreciative that people are receptive to the stuff. And if you haven't, and please check out our music. Come see us live or check it out on recording, and hopefully it will be an experience that will be different than something you've experienced before, and hopefully you enjoy it too, but I can guarantee it'll at least be different.
Hell yeah. Well, this has been the Weird Music Podcast with the legend, Gabe. Man, so glad we got to do this. I can't wait to see all of you at Consider the Source show. Go ahead, subscribe, and sure. I'll see you real soon.
Yeah, man. Have a good one.